I asked my son the simplest question a mom can ask, when love starts looking like it's headed toward forever. When's the wedding? I asked it while pouring tea, sunlight sliding across the table, expecting something normal. A month, a season, a date we could circle on a calendar and build dreams around. But instead, she looked right at me. No blink, no hesitation, just this soft, heavy smile, like she'd been carrying a secret that finally slipped out of her hands. We got married yesterday. Yesterday. Not next month. Not next year. Yesterday. 7 hours before sunrise. 17 hours before that question left my mouth. A whole lifetime squeezed between two sunsets, and I wasn't in any of it. No family. No ceremony. No music. Just two signatures, and a quiet promise the world didn't see happen. People like to say weddings are celebrations. Sometimes they're rescue missions. And here's the worst part. They didn't look scared telling me. I was the only one shaking on the inside. Why yesterday? What storm did they walk through alone? What were they running from or toward? And if yesterday was so important, why didn't they tell me? They think they hid their secret well. But secrets always leave fingerprints. A scar she keeps covered. A silence in his eyes whenever someone asks, "So where's your family?" A certain way her voice drops when the word home comes up. Everyone assumes they got married because they wanted to. But what if they got married because they had to? I wasn't ready for yesterday. But yesterday was ready for me. And the truth they buried that day is something they never meant for me to find. But here's the thing about mothers. We always do. The next morning, the house didn't feel like my house. Nothing had moved. Same furniture. Same curtains. Same old clock on the wall. But something in the air had shifted, like the walls had heard more than I had. I made tea like I always do. Only this time, I reached for 3 cups instead of 2. 3. That number felt strange all of a sudden. Yesterday, they were just my son and the girl he loved, walking around with someday in their eyes. Today, they were husband and wife with a whole legal yesterday I had never been invited into. She came into the kitchen first. Soft steps, head slightly bent, like she wasn't sure where she was allowed to exist yet. She stood by the fridge, not sitting, not leaning, just hovering, like a guest in her own life. "Good morning," she said, voice small but trying. "Morning," I replied as calmly as I could. Sometimes, mothers hold the house steady by pretending everything's already okay. My son walked in behind her. He didn't say much either. He just stood close enough that his presence wrapped around her like a shield. One hand rested lightly on her back, like he was ready to catch her if the floor gave out. Hay sat down at the table. I set the cups in front of them and took my seat. We drank in silence. But it wasn't empty silence. It was heavy, like the room knew we were all pretending not to stare at the word yesterday. He was the first to break. "Ma, should we tell everyone?" He didn't mean everyone as in the world. He meant relatives, neighbors, the aunties who collect other people's pain and call it news. I wrapped my fingers around my cup and let the warmth anchor me. "No," I said. He blinked. "Not now," I added. "Why not?" he asked. I didn't look at him when I answered. I looked at her. "Because you didn't marry the whole world," I said. "You married each other." Her eyes snapped up, like she hadn't expected to be protected by the same woman she'd hidden the truth from. "And some truths," I added, "need a little quiet before they're strong enough to survive noise." She let out a breath I don't think she realized she'd been holding. We finished breakfast. Slowly. Every bite tasted like we were learning how to live in this new version of the same house. When we were done, I stood up and said, as casually as I could, "We're running low on vegetables. Want to go to the market?" She froze. "Me?" "Yes, you. You live here now, remember?" My son jumped in immediately. "I'll go with her." I shook my head. "No. Let her go alone." He frowned. "Alone? If she walks in your shadow," I said, "they'll only see you. Let them see her." She watched my face, searching for something. Anger, resentment, hidden tests. She didn't find any. I pointed to the cloth bag hanging by the kitchen door. "Milk shop is on the left," I told her. "Veggies on the right. And don't let him give you old coriander. He tries that with new people." A tiny smile flickered on her lips. Okay, she said. And just like that, she left. Quiet steps out into a loud world. The door closed behind her. My son turned into static. He paced the living room like a storm in circles. Checked the window twice. Looked at his phone like she might text him if the sky fell. 5 minutes. Nothing. 10 minutes. Still nothing. At 15, he went for his shoes. The door opened. She stepped in, hair a little wind-tossed, cheeks slightly flushed, holding the bag like a trophy. He rushed forward. You okay? She nodded, calm. I argued, she said. With who? He asked. The veggie guy. He stared. About what? Her eyes flicked to me, then back to him. He tried to give me old coriander, she said. So I told him, no. Give me the fresh one. This house doesn't eat leftovers. The line landed right in my chest. My son looked at her like he'd just seen a side of her no one gave her credit for. I couldn't help the smile that tugged at my lips. She walked into the kitchen, placed the coriander in my hand, and said quietly, This is for you. Ma. That word felt different this time. Yesterday, it sounded like something she was testing. Today, it sounded like something she was choosing. We made lunch together. She chopped onions into clumsy shapes. I rolled rotis that puffed up just right. We bumped into each other a few times, said too many sorry-yes, laughed too softly, like we were all afraid of being too loud in this brand new reality. Every little moment was a step, not toward perfection, toward belonging. After lunch, my son pretended to be busy with his phone, but kept drifting into the kitchen, stealing glances at us, talking like we'd been doing this for years. We hadn't, but the heart doesn't care about calendars. Around late afternoon, the knock came. Not gentle, not hesitant, fast, familiar. The kind of knock that doesn't ask permission. My sister-in-law. She walked in like she owned the hallway. AJ, KAL Bohat Chup Ho, she said to me. You've gone all quiet. BAS the coon, I replied. Her eyes moved like scanners, over the table, the kitchen, the couch, until they landed on the girl sitting by the counter, sorting coriander leaves into a steel bowl like this had always been her job. So she's here, my sister-in-law said. Not a question. A statement. I nodded. She walked closer, eyes narrowing in that way people do when they smell a story but don't know the plot yet. So, she began, voice dipped in sugar, when's the wedding? This time no one stayed silent. We got married, my son said. She blinked. Married? When? Yesterday. There it was again. That word. Yesterday. Dropping into the room like a stone into a still lake. Her lips parted, but her eyes were what screamed. No family. No invite. No pictures. No reason she could repeat to others that would make her sound like she still knew everything. You didn't call anyone? She asked. No, I answered. We didn't invite society. We invited love. She looked at me like I'd just ruined her favorite TV show spoiler. 10 minutes later, she left. Mind racing. Phone probably already filling with names to gossip to. My son turned to me, worry etched across his forehead. She'll tell everyone, he muttered. Good, I said. Less work for us. He frowned. She'll twist it. She can twist stories, I replied. But she can't twist what we do next. He didn't fully understand, but he let it go. The girl, my daughter-in-law, watched me like I was some kind of puzzle. You're brave, she said. I shook my head. No, I'm just done letting fear drive this house. She stared for a second, then said quietly, me too. That evening, we tried to watch something on TV, but nobody really cared about what was on. We were all too busy listening for the sound of the future knocking again. Instead, the phone did. Her phone. Her whole body went still. Her mother's name glowed on the screen. She looked at me, panic flickering behind her eyes. I nodded toward the balcony. Take it, I said. She stepped out, slid the door half closed. I could hear only pieces of her voice. Hello. MHM. I'm fine. Yes. I ate. No, he's kind. Yes. I'm safe. And then, softer breaking. Please don't cry, Ma. When she came back in, her eyes were red, but her mouth was trying to form a smile. She said they might come, she whispered. I put my hand on her arm. If they do, this house is theirs too. Later, after they went to sleep, I walked around the house in the quiet. Passing by the bathroom, I stopped. 2 toothbrushes in the cup. Blue. Pink. Side by side. That's what marriage really is. Not outfits. Not big halls. Not flower walls. Just 2 toothbrushes sharing the same space. Every single morning. I switched off the bathroom light and went to bed, whispering a little prayer into the dark. Let love be louder than fear. The house settled. The night deepened. Rough edges of the day began to soften, until her phone lit up on the nightstand. 2:14 a.m. Unknown number. She blinked awake, squinting at the screen. One message. I know why you married yesterday. Her heart dropped into her stomach, because the only person who knew the real reason wasn't supposed to be alive. She stared at that message like it was written in fire. I know why you married yesterday. 6 words. 6 bullets. A sentence shaped like a threat and a memory at the same time. Her hand shook, almost dropping the phone. My son woke up halfway, confused and half-blind with sleep. What happened? He whispered, pulling himself upright. She didn't answer. She couldn't. She just turned the phone around and let the screen glow between them. He read the message once, then again. His face drained, like someone had pulled the ground from under him. He sat perfectly still. Sleep was dead, warmth gone from the room. They both looked like morning would never come. Who sent that? He asked, voice tight. She swallowed hard. There's no name, just a number. He reached for the phone, but she held it back. Don't call. Don't text. Don't do anything. Fear had a shape in her voice. Not panic, memory. The number, do you know it? He asked. She shook her head. No. But someone knows. And they shouldn't, he finished. Silence sat between them like a third person in the room. Should we wake Ma? He asked. She thought about it. For a few seconds, she looked like a child wanting safety. But something in her straightened. No, she whispered. We said yesterday is ours. Let's not break today with it. He wanted to argue, but the way she said ours stopped him. He set the phone face down on the table, screen dark. Sleep, he said. Neither of them slept. Morning came anyway. Not slowly, not gently, just came. Sunlight didn't care about secrets. Birds didn't care about fear. The world moved forward like nothing happened. She sat at the breakfast table with eyes that hadn't closed. He poured water wrong twice. They bumped into walls like the house was new again. I noticed. Of course I noticed. A mother doesn't need cameras. She just needs to look at how someone lifts a spoon. You okay? I asked. They both answered at the same time. Yes. Which is how you know the answer is no. After breakfast, I pulled my son aside while she washed a dish she'd already washed twice. Tell me, I said softly. He shook his head. There's nothing. When 2 people say the same lie at the same time, I replied, it becomes a truth nobody believes. He closed his eyes, exhaling slowly. I can't tell you yet, he said. That wasn't refusal. That was protection. I nodded. If you can't tell me today, tell me when it stops hurting. He looked at me like I had already defeated half the battle for him. But there was a second battle happening across the room, the girl at the sink, scrubbing fear off her plate. Later, she came to me in the kitchen while my son was outside pretending to fix the scooter he'd fixed 2 days ago. Ma, she said, voice soft, can I ask you something? Anything, I replied. She hesitated. If someone from my past called me, should I answer? I didn't ask who. I didn't ask why. I asked the only question that matters. Will it break the life you just built? Her eyes welled up. Maybe. I shook my head. No. A call can't break anything. Only truth can. And the truth you don't say is the truth that eats you. She stared at me like I had said something she wasn't expecting from the woman she'd feared yesterday. I'm not asking what happened. I told her. I'm asking if you're safe. She nodded fast. I'm safe here. Then that call is just a phone number, I said. Nothing more. But we both knew that wasn't true. Not completely. She placed her head on my shoulder, a gesture soft as confession. I didn't lie to him, she said. I know, I replied gently, but I didn't tell everything either. Sometimes, I said, love starts in the space between the whole truth and the truth we're brave enough to say out loud. She let that sit. Will it hurt him? She asked. Yes, I said. But pain doesn't mean danger. It means honesty. She stayed quiet for a long time. That afternoon, something strange happened. She asked to make tea. Her tea was bad. Burnt leaves. Too much sugar. But she insisted on making 3 cups anyway. When she poured mine, her hands were steady, like she'd chosen something on the inside. Mid-sip, she looked at my son. There's something I should tell you, she said. His heart climbed right into his throat. She opened her mouth. The doorbell rang. Loud. Fast. Like someone who came with urgency, not manners. We all froze for different reasons. My son stood. I followed. She stayed glued to her chair, breath caught halfway. He opened the door. 3 people stood outside. Not relatives. Not neighbors. Police. A man with a badge. 2 officers standing behind him. My son's face went white. The officer asked a simple question. Are you Arohi? Her name hit the house like a window breaking. She stood, slow, like her knees doubled. Almost gave out. Yes, about yesterday. We need to talk, the officer said. I had questions, thousands, but none of them had air. My son stepped forward, protective instinct firing like a gun. What's this about? He demanded. The officer looked at all 3 of us. A report was filed, he said, about a disappearance and a marriage. Disappearance. Marriage. In one sentence. She shook her head, backing toward the kitchen table like it could shield her. I didn't disappear, she said. Her voice was breaking. I ran. Those 2 words dug a hole in the floor. Ran. Not left. Not moved. Ran. The officer nodded slowly. We're not here to arrest you, he said. We're here to understand. My son looked at her, everything breaking behind his eyes. Why did you run? He whispered. Her lips trembled, because the only person who knew the real reason wasn't supposed to be alive. She looked at him, tears falling faster than her breath could keep up. I'm sorry, she said. For what? He asked. Her answer cut the room in half. For yesterday. Everyone thought yesterday was the beginning. It was actually the cover. The officer stepped inside. Her phone vibrated on the table, screen lighting up once more. Same number. Same message. New line added. It wasn't supposed to be you. She collapsed into my arms. The officer looked up sharply. What did it say? I turned the phone so he could read. And for the first time since he walked in, the officer's face changed, like he just realized this wasn't a normal marriage or a normal disappearance. He looked at her, looked at my son, then at me. Ma'am, he said, voice low, this is bigger than yesterday. The room didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds after the officer said those words. This is bigger than yesterday. Bigger than a wedding. Bigger than silence. Bigger than all the fear she'd been hiding behind shy smiles and too sweet tea. She sat between me and my son like a question no one dared answer yet. Her hands shook, but her eyes stayed fixed on the phone, like the screen might attack if she blinked. The officer gently lifted the phone without touching her fingers, careful like he was handling evidence that could scream. He read the message again. I know why you married yesterday. It wasn't supposed to be you. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then he asked the question that would either break her or free her. Who was it supposed to be? She didn't speak. Her throat moved, but words didn't come out. Her silence was louder than anything she could have said. My son stepped toward her, not like family, not like someone who deserved answers, but like someone whose heart just realized it might not know the full story of the person it sleeps beside. Who? He repeated. She blinked, and one tear fell, straight and clean, like it knew the path by memory. A friend, she whispered. The officer studied her face. What friend? She pressed her lips together, trying not to fall apart. He was like my brother, she said. Not by blood, but by everything else. Past tense. Was. The officer caught it instantly. Where is he now? She closed her eyes. In a place I can't go back to. My son clenched his jaw. Alive or... She interrupted before the word death could land. I don't know, she said, voice cracking. I don't know anything anymore. The officer didn't write anything down. He just folded his arms and looked at her the way someone looks at a puzzle missing its centerpiece. Tell me why your family reported a disappearance tied to a marriage, he said. My son turned to her, heart pounding in his voice. Disappearance? Your family said you were missing. She didn't answer that question. She answered the question underneath it. I ran, she said again. I didn't disappear. They just didn't know where to look. The officer stepped closer. Why did you run? She stared at the floor. Her voice came out flat, like something she'd said 1,000 times in her own head. To stay alive. Those 3 words froze the air. Nobody spoke. Not the officer. Not my son. Not me. The words sat there, heavy, shifting the room into a different reality than the one we woke up in. My son took her shoulders, gently, turning her so she had to meet his eyes. From who? He asked. Her answer was a story in one name. From the man who wanted to marry me, she said. Silence cracked open like thunder. The officer exhaled slowly. So yesterday wasn't about love, he said. It was about protection. She stared back at him, shaking her head, guilt crawling across her face. No, she whispered. It was love. It is love. But love just wasn't enough to fight him. My son felt that line hit his ribs like a punch. So you married me to escape someone else? She grabbed his hands like they were the last rope hanging over a cliff. No, she said, desperate. I married you because you were the only person I ever chose. But I ran because he wasn't a choice. He was danger. The officer held her gaze. What's his name? She flinched like the name itself had teeth. Anis, she whispered. My son froze. Anis. She nodded, eyes emptying like the name pulled memories out of her chest. He was my father's business partner's son. They grew up together. They wanted our families to merge. They called it tradition, she said. Her voice trembled, but she kept speaking, like breaking was easier than lying. I told them no, she continued. They told me marriage isn't about yes or no. It's about honor. The officer leaned in. And the friend? The boy like a brother. A shadow crossed her face. He helped me run, she said. And now? The officer asked. She swallowed like the truth was sharp. He went back to get my documents. He was supposed to return. He never did. My son stepped back, eyes filling with fear and anger that couldn't decide which one to be. So yesterday was the only day you had left. She nodded slowly. They gave me a deadline, she said. 4 weeks to change my mind. Yesterday was the end of the 4th week. Yesterday. Not love. Not romance. A deadline. The officer turned toward my son. You didn't know any of this? He asked. My son shook his head, voice broken. She told me a little, he said. But not this. The officer nodded, gently, like he understood why truth sometimes comes late. And this disappearing report? He asked her. She closed her eyes. My father didn't want to admit I ran, so he told people I was missing, that I'd been taken, that someone stole me. The officer's face tightened. False reports carry weight. And he thinks your husband took you, he said. She nodded once. That's why yesterday had to happen, she whispered. Not because they didn't want family, because family would have stopped them. My son collapsed into the chair like everything he believed had tilted sideways. He wasn't just a husband. He was the solution to someone else's nightmare. I stepped forward and pulled both of them close, 2 hearts collapsing into truth they weren't ready for. The officer let us breathe for a moment before speaking again. There's one more question, he said. She lifted her head. Why did the message say it wasn't supposed to be you? She stared at him with eyes full of grief. Because the person who helped me escape was supposed to marry me that day, she whispered. The room split in half. He was going to take the blame, she said. He told me he'd pretend he ran with me, that they'd look for him instead. He made me promise to marry someone safe. Her voice broke. Anyone safe. Tears fell hard, uncontrolled. And then he didn't come back. She covered her face. I thought he was dead, she said. The officer looked at the phone on the table, glowing like a curse. So if he's alive, the officer said carefully, then yesterday wasn't just a deadline. He looked at the message. It was his sacrifice coming back to you. She sobbed. My son stared at her, torn between love and the shock of learning he was part of someone else's escape story, and now, someone else's unfinished sacrifice. She reached for him, shaking. I didn't use you, she cried. I loved you, but I also needed to live long enough to love you. That line shattered him. He wrapped her in his arms like breaking together was better than breaking apart. The officer watched with eyes that had seen too many versions of the same war. Between family, between honor, between love and survival. Then he said something that changed everything again. "Your friend," he said quietly, "is alive." Her head snapped up. "What?" "We got a location ping from a tower last night," the officer said. "Near your hometown." She couldn't breathe. "You're sure?" she whispered. The officer nodded. "And if he sent that text, it means he wants to meet you." She shook her head violently. "No. No. If he's alive, they'll be watching. If I meet him, it'll pull him back into danger." The officer leaned in close. "But what if danger is already here?" My son felt the ground shift again. "So what do we do?" he asked. The officer looked at all of us. "You have two choices," he said. "Stay silent and hope yesterday holds, or open every truth and face what comes." Nobody spoke. "He wasn't supposed to be the groom," she whispered. We all went still. "They forced an engagement on me when I was 17, she continued. "Not marriage, an agreement. When the families are stable, we'll unite the kids. That's what they called it. Like marriage was a business arrangement." Her voice shook. "My father and Anisa's father wanted a partnership. My mother thought it was tradition. I thought it was prison." She looked at my son, guilt on her face. "I didn't know you back then. I didn't know love could be something you choose." Her voice softened. "I met him, not Anis, the boy I called my brother, when I was 18. He was working with my father's partner. Not a rich kid, a helper. But smart, smarter than all the men making decisions on top of his head." My son listened like each word was a test of his heart. "He understood me," she said. "He understood why I was suffocating in a family where honor meant saying yes to everything except yourself. He became my friend. My safe place." The next part came out like a confession she never wanted to make. When I told him they fixed my marriage, he didn't say run. He said, "Let's save you without destroying them." My son blinked. "How?" "He made a plan," she whispered. "Not dramatic. Not wild. A plan that looked like sacrifice. He said he would take my place. He said he'd sign the papers, pretend he ran with me, so Anisa's family would chase him, not me. He would become the criminal. She would become the rumor. But she would stay alive. He told me, "They'll search for me. They'll blame me. But you'll be free." And he smiled like his life didn't matter if it meant mine did. My son's throat closed. "He wasn't supposed to love me," she whispered. "Not like that." I exhaled slowly. "And you agreed," I said. She nodded, tears falling. We planned to meet at the registrar office the next morning. He'd sign the witness papers. He'd disappear with my name on his record. I would start a new life far away. No marriage. Not yet. Just freedom. My son frowned. "Then where do I come in?" She looked at him with eyes full of apology and devotion in equal measure. "You were not part of the plan," she said honestly. "I didn't meet you to escape. I met you by accident. At the market. You asked where the bus stop was." He stared, memory flashing, the bus, her directions, the way she smiled like she had secrets. "And suddenly," she continued, "freedom had a face. Not an idea." Her voice broke. "I didn't want to just survive anymore. I wanted a future. Not someday. Not safe. Just real. So I told him the truth," she said. "I told him I met someone. Someone I wanted to choose. And he asked me one question, the question that changed everything." She wiped her face. "He asked me, will he love you enough to carry danger instead of leaving you with it?" Silence swallowed the room. "And I said yes," she whispered. My son felt that like a burn. She chose him not because he was safe, but because she believed he wouldn't let danger touch her alone. "So he changed the plan," she continued. "He would sign the paper as the witness and vanish. You would be my husband on record. You would protect me without knowing why. And I would finally get to choose something in my life." My son's chest rose and felt like every breath hurt. "And then he didn't show up," she said. "He told me he'd be there at 9 a.m. But he never came. I waited for 2 hours. I thought something happened. Something bad." Her voice cracked. "I thought he died for me." So she panicked. She ran. "I called you," she said to my son. I called because you were the only person I trusted. I didn't explain, because if I explained, you would have tried to save him instead of marrying me. She swallowed, and I couldn't lose both of you. My son's eyes turned red, not from anger, from realizing he was holding a love that was born from fire. So we married without the witness, she said. We found a different man outside, paid him to sign, not to ask questions, just to sign. Yesterday wasn't romance. It was survival in minutes. And when we got home, she whispered, I waited for news that never came. I thought the story ended. Until 2:14 a.m. Until. He didn't run. Someone took his place. The wrong bride. My son finally found his voice. So, who was supposed to marry yesterday? If not you. She stared at him, confusion turning to horror. I don't know, she whispered. But someone signed something they weren't meant to sign. The officer's last words echoed through the walls. Love built yesterday. Truth decides tomorrow. Suddenly, yesterday wasn't courage. It was a collision. What if someone else walked into the registrar office with her name? What if someone else disappeared? What if the sacrifice happened, but for the wrong girl? Her phone vibrated again. One more line appeared. Check the witness. She froze. Witness. The one they paid. The one they didn't know. The one who signed without speaking. What if the witness wasn't random? She whispered. What if he was sent to replace him? The room went icy. My son grabbed the marriage papers they'd shoved in a drawer. They stared at the signature. A looping shape. A name scribbled fast. Unreadable. Except for one detail. A tiny mark at the corner. A circle drawn next to the witness line. Her blood ran cold. He used to draw that circle, she said. When he signed anything. He said it was his way of protecting his name. The room spun. The witness wasn't a stranger. It was him. Her friend. The one she thought died. The one who planned the sacrifice. He was the witness. Not running. Signing. He showed up. He signed the paper. Then disappeared into her past like he never existed. Her knees buckled. My son caught her. He was there, she whispered. He was right there, and I never saw him. My son held her tightly, shaking himself. He saved us, he said. No, she cried. He saved me. And finally, she understood the message. It wasn't supposed to be you. It was supposed to be him. He was the one meant to be on that marriage certificate, not as her groom, but as her ghost. He planned to take blame for a wedding he wasn't part of. He went from witness to target, without a word, without goodbye. Not for honor, not for duty, for her. My son held her with both arms, fury mixing with love, the kind that burns instead of melts. Where is he now? He asked, hoping she might have a map inside her tears. Her phone buzzed again. The entire house leaned over one more line. Now you owe me a life. Not money. Not thanks. A life. Because he gave away his. And just like that, yesterday became a debt. A love story built on someone else's sacrifice. Now you owe me a life. The words didn't feel like a message. They felt like a door opening into a past nobody prepared for. She stared at the screen, as if those letters were engraved into her skin. Her whole body went cold, like her blood realized a truth before her mind could. My son stood right beside her, close enough for his breath to shake on her shoulder. But she wasn't in the room anymore. She was back in time, reliving something that hurt even when it saved her. I sat across from them, trying to understand something that didn't belong to me, but was already threatening my house like smoke sliding under a closed door. Explain, I finally said, my voice steady enough to hold all three of us in one place. She didn't look up. He signed for me, she whispered. My son nodded. He understood that part. He disappeared for me, she continued. We understood that too. Then she said the part that changed everything. And now he wants me to live for him. Not love him. Not return to him. Live for him. That's a debt nobody knows how to pay. A promise written in silence. She pulled her knees close, hugging them like a child trying to disappear into herself. When we made the plan, she said, voice dropping, he made me promise something. I didn't understand it then. I thought he was being dramatic, but he said it like a vow. She closed her eyes, letting the memory speak through her. He said, if I disappear for you, you don't go back to living small. She swallowed. You don't settle for safety. You choose your life, the way they never let you choose anything. Her tears fell onto her fingers. You owe me one life. Your own. My son looked at her with something heavy inside his eyes, something between admiration and grief. So that message, he said slowly, isn't a threat. She shook her head. No. It's a reminder. He was alive, but he wasn't asking for rescue. He was asking for proof that she used his sacrifice to become something bigger than fear. But the timing was cruel. You just married me, my son whispered. So whose life are you living now? She looked at him with the kind of honesty that makes love either grow or die. Yours, she said. And mine. He shook his head. No. I want the truth. Her voice cracked. Both. That one word was the edge of a knife. The marriage built on a ghost. My son let go of her hand and stood up, walking to the window like distance might help him breathe. So I'm part of his plan, he said quietly. She stood too, stepping toward him. You're part of my plan, she said. He turned, eyes burning. I didn't choose that. She didn't back away. I did. That line was terrifying and beautiful. She didn't choose him accidentally. She chose him deliberately. Not as an escape, as a future. But that meant something darker too. He chose me first, my son said. She didn't deny it. He saved me first, she whispered. He looked at her like he was seeing the story from the wrong angle all this time. And now, he asked. She took a breath that looked like it hurt. Now, you're the one saving me. That line cracked him open. Because it was true. Whether he wanted to be part of the story or not, he already was. A ghost with a phone number. The officer told us not to call back. But the silence in the room made that rule feel impossible. My son picked up the phone with shaky hands. What do we do? He asked, looking at me and her like someone drowning. Before I could answer, the phone buzzed again. A full message this time, not just a line. If you're reading this, it means you chose him. Her breath stopped. Good. He'll carry what I can't. My son read it twice. Carry what he can't. Not love. Not future. Danger. He took the hit, so someone else could walk forward. And now that someone else was sitting in my living room with yesterday, between them like a crime scene. She touched the screen, fingers trembling, not to reply, but like she was touching a memory that finally proved itself. He's not asking anything, she whispered. He's letting go. My son stared at her. And what about us? He asked. She turned to him, voice shaking but determined. Yesterday wasn't fake, she said. Yesterday was the only day I ever lived for myself. Her eyes filled. And I choose you today. Not because I need safety, but because I want a life. Those words were a gift, but also a knife. Because love born in danger has two shadows. Loyalty. Guilt. The question that breaks everything. I stepped closer because what happened next wasn't just their story. It was about my son's entire future. You ran from fear, I said softly. And you ran into love. That's rare. But rare doesn't mean easy. She listened through tears. You owe him a life, I continued. So you need to decide what that means. She frowned. What do you mean? I looked at my son. Does that debt belong to you or him? The question changed the air. Did she owe her friend a life through herself? Or did she owe him a life by choosing a future bigger than both men? Either answer could break something. My son lowered his head. You're asking her to choose between us, he said. No, I replied. I'm asking her to choose herself. Because whoever she chooses, the debt will chase her forever unless she ends it. She wiped her tears, shaking her head like she wasn't ready for choices. I don't want to choose, she whispered. But yesterday already was a choice. She just didn't know. Tea came with a ghost. The call that shouldn't happen. The phone rang. Not a message. A call. Same number. Her scream was silent, just air leaving her lungs with no sound. My son grabbed her hand. Don't answer, he said. Her finger hovered like gravity was pulling it down. She answered. The whole house stopped breathing. No voice on the other side. Just static. A low hum. Then a breath, like someone was speaking from a place where talking was dangerous. Arohi, a voice whispered. She almost collapsed. My son tightened his grip. Don't say my name, she whispered into the phone. He didn't listen. I'm safe. Her eyes flooded instantly. You disappeared, she whispered. He exhaled. You lived. She shook. Why didn't you meet me that morning? She asked. His answer was a wall. They arrived early. Who? He didn't say. She pushed the words out. You could have died. I didn't, he replied. That's why you get to live bigger than me. The line between a brother and martyr blurred. Don't call again, she whispered. They'll track you. He laughed, not happy, not sad, a laugh made of fatigue. They already are. My son tensed. Why are you calling then? He asked. Silence. Then, to give her back what I took. His voice broke on the next word. Choice. The call ended. No goodbye. The kind of ending that leaves roots in your mind. What he meant. She sank to the couch, shaking. He gave me a life, she whispered. And now he's giving me freedom. Her eyes moved to my son. Not obligation. My son knelt in front of her. So yesterday isn't debt, he said slowly. It's love, she finished. Not their love. Not his love. All of it tangled into a life she was allowed to choose. She touched his face, forehead pressed to his, both crying like they were finally at the start instead of the middle. I choose you, she said. Not afraid. Not hiding. No ghosts attached to the words. And I choose tomorrow, she added. That line seemed small, but it was everything. My son held her like the world wasn't ending anymore. It was beginning for the first time. I sat beside them, silent in the way only mothers can be when their children choose their own futures. Outside, the sun started to set. Another yesterday getting ready to happen. The twist that opens the next chapter. Her phone buzzed one more time. One line. From the same number. If you chose him, look under the name on the papers. She grabbed the marriage papers from the table, hands shaking. Her eyes scanned the document, past her name, past my son's, down to the witness signature. There, next to his circle mark, was a number. Not a random one. A bank account number. In her name. My son stared. What is that? Her voice was barely a breath. He didn't give me a signature. She looked up, realization hitting like lightning. He gave me everything he had. Not money. Not inheritance. A way to live without fear. A life. The debt wasn't hers. It was his final gift. And now she had to decide what to do with it. They stared at the page like it was a map printed on a dead animal. Her fingers traced the number, almost afraid the ink would disappear if she touched it wrong. A bank account number. In her name. Not a signature. A lifeline. My son looked from the paper to her, then to me, and I could see it in his eyes. He was finally understanding the scale of what happened. This wasn't just love. It was design. A life built in silence. Money hidden in a place nobody would look. Future planned out like war logistics. So he saved for you, my son whispered. She shook her head slowly, like that was too small. He saved a life for me, she said. He saved me. She wiped her face, breath shaking like her lungs forgot how to function in rooms without danger. The officer came back at that exact moment, almost like the universe wanted the truth witnessed. He looked at the paper on the table, then back at her. You found it, he said. My son's voice cracked. You knew. The officer nodded once. We didn't want to tell you until we confirmed it was his handwriting. Confirmed. The word hit the room. The officer pulled out a folder and placed it on the table like a judge dropping a verdict. Inside, photographs, signed documents, a single page torn from a notebook, her friend's Circle's signature on multiple forms. She grabbed the papers like she was grabbing the last pieces of him. He signed everything, she whispered. Not as witness, not as groom, as ghost. The officer stepped closer. He opened a secret account 2 months before you ran, he said. In your name, with everything he earned. My son frowned. But why hide it under a witness signature? The officer looked straight at her. So you wouldn't know until it was too late to give it back. Those words shattered the air. He didn't want repayment. He wanted no return path. A promise he could die with. She will never come back to me out of guilt. She cried silently, the kind of crying that looks like breathing hurts. He wanted me to live, she said. No, the officer corrected softly. He wanted you to choose living. That was different. Living can be forced. Choosing is freedom. My son asked the question that had been burning in him since part 3. What happened that morning? Why didn't he meet her? The officer hesitated, not because he wanted to hide it, but because it was heavy. We traced the CCTV from the registrar office, he said. He was there. He arrived early. Too early. She covered her face. He waited outside for over an hour, the officer continued. He had the documents. Your ID copy. Proof. My son's voice was shaking. Then where did he go? The officer opened the notebook page. He saw your father's car. The room collapsed. She dropped the papers. My father, she whispered. Not unease. Not strangers. Not criminals in the dark. Her own father. The officer nodded. He recognized you together from photos. He came early. Not to bless the marriage. To stop it. My son stepped forward, protective instinct firing like a weapon. He would have hurt her, he said. The officer shook his head. No. He had a deal. A deal. Her face went hollow. What deal? She asked. The officer took a breath. He told your friend, bring her home quietly, and your family will never pay the price. Silence. He traded safety for freedom. Not hers. His. He walked away from the registrar office, the officer said. With the papers, and your father. She shook her head violently. No. He would never betray me. He didn't, the officer replied. You never came to the meeting point. He thought you already ran. So he took the deal to protect everyone. The room tilted. He didn't disappear. He surrendered. For her. Not because he chose it. Because he thought she wasn't coming. She had been waiting at a different entrance. While he was walking into silence. Two people trying to save each other. Missing each other by minutes. My son covered his face. This is hell, he whispered. Not dramatic. Just real. She looked at me, eyes broken in a way that doesn't happen from heartbreak, but from family betrayal. My father did all this? Not yelling. Just disbelief. The officer nodded. Your father wanted the marriage to go through. He didn't care who signed what, as long as the business joined. Your friend offered himself as the problem for running away. So your father agreed. The word tasted like poison. Agreed. An agreement between men. Over her life. Like a contract on cattle. She shook with anger, not tears. He traded my freedom for his business. She looked up at the ceiling like she was trying not to scream. He didn't want a daughter, she said. He wanted a merger. My son stepped toward her. I'm here now, he said. She stared at him with eyes that held a galaxy of pain. And he'll come looking, she responded. Not fear. Not drama. Truth. The officer nodded. He will. But you are legally married now. And if he tries anything, it stops being family matter. It becomes crime. My son put his arm around her, like the entire house needed to know she wasn't alone anymore. What happens to my friend? She asked. The officer didn't answer immediately. We found something in the account records, he said. He placed a small folded paper in front of her. She opened it. Not a letter. Not a confession. A receipt. A donation. In her name. But not to her. To the family of a boy who had died 2 years ago, the family her friend grew up with. He wasn't saving money for himself. He was paying their debt to protect her long before she knew. Why would he do that? She whispered. The officer looked at my son. So she wouldn't spend her life repaying him. The debt is already paid forward into someone else's freedom. My son blinked, tears falling before he realized he was crying. Her friend didn't want her to return anything. He wanted her to pass it on. Not money. Choice. One life paid into another. That's why he said, "Owe me a life," the officer said softly. Not to him. To the world. Live big. Give big. She dropped the paper, hands over her face, not in grief alone, but in understanding. He didn't save her to hold her. He saved her to release her. The hard question. I spoke, because someone had to make the truth real. Now what? I asked. The officer sighed. Now. She makes a choice. Stay hidden and small, or stand up and end the cycle. My son shook his head. There's no choice. She stays here. With me. The officer looked at him. No. That's the mistake everyone made before. Choosing for her. Silence cut through the room. Her father chose yesterday. Her friend chose sacrifice. Now her husband was choosing safety. But none of them had asked her what she wanted. She lifted her head, face wet, voice steel. "I won't run." My son turned to her in shock. "You can't go back," he said. "They'll—" She interrupted, stronger than before. "I won't run," she repeated. "But I won't go back to them either." The officer nodded. "That's the only answer that breaks their power." She held the bank number. "And this?" she asked. The officer smiled, tired but proud. "That's seed money, not escape money." She looked at my son. "I want to build something," she said. He stared, confused through tears. "Build what?" She took his hand. "A life that isn't built on someone else's pain." He broke in her arms, the kind of break that makes a man become someone new. I watched them, two people born in yesterday, making tomorrow their first real decision. Morning arrived without asking permission. It didn't care about bank accounts hidden under signatures or promises buried behind silence. It came the way it always does, loud outside, quiet inside. She sat at the table with the papers in front of her, the bank account number now memorized like a scar, the officer's folder beside it, her friend's circle signature shining like a ghost in black ink. My son sat next to her, not touching the papers, just holding her wrist like he was holding a pulse. Mine, hers, his, all three beating for different reasons. We didn't speak much. No one knew what to say when the truth was big enough to swallow a house whole. Then someone knocked. Not like neighbors knock. Not like relatives knock. It was a family knock, the one that arrives with authority, not affection. She froze. My son stood, shoulders straight, eyes dark, like he was ready to put his body between her and the world. I opened the door. Her father stood there. Clean shirt, straight posture, eyes that carried 5 generations of entitlement. He didn't ask to come in. He walked in like walls remember his name. Behind him, 2 uncles, silent shadows of the old rules. He looked at her, his daughter, not with love, but with inventory. "You ran," he said. "No hello. No question. Just a verdict." She didn't look away. "I lived," she replied. A line so simple it cracked the floor under every tradition he believed in. His jaw tightened. "You embarrass this family." She shook her head. "No. I escaped what you called family." My son stepped forward. "She's my wife," he said. Her father turned, slow, like the word wife was an insult in her mouth. "You think a paper makes her yours?" he asked. My son didn't blink. "No. She makes herself mine." That line came like thunder. Not ownership. Choice. Her father laughed once, sharp, ugly. "You don't understand our world." She stood. "No. You don't understand mine." He turned back to her, voice low, dangerous. "We gave you everything." She stepped closer, shaking but standing. "You gave me decisions made by men in closed rooms. You gave me a wedding date I never agreed to. You gave me a future that was a cage. You didn't give me life." His eyes burned. "Life? You know nothing about life. Men build life. Women carry honor." She didn't flinch. "I won't carry dishonor disguised as honor." He took a step. "You became shameless." She pointed at the papers. "And he became a ghost." Silence. Everyone understood who he was. Her father didn't look at the papers. He looked at the wound. "You think that boy died for love?" he asked, bitter. My son's voice cut in. "He didn't die. He sacrificed." Her father snapped. "He was stupid." She didn't hesitate. "He was brave." The men behind her father shifted, uncomfortable with truth spoken like fire. Her father smiled, the smile of a man who believes he still controls everything. "You married the wrong man." She replied, calm as truth. "No. I married the man I chose." Choice. The word her friend gave her. The word her husband held for her. The word her father feared the most. He moved toward the papers, grabbed them. "You think this matters?" he said. "Money. You think his little bank account buys freedom." She pulled the paper from his hand, firm. "It bought his choice. Now it gives me mine." He looked at me, finally noticing the mother in the room. "You allowed this," he accused. I stepped forward. "No," I said. "I protected it." "You destroyed tradition," he spat. "No," I replied. "You destroyed her childhood. She rebuilt her life." His face twisted. "You don't understand honor." I leaned forward, the quiet voice of a woman who buried dreams and learned how to grow truth from the pieces. Honor is what a daughter carries in her spine, I said. Not in the marriage papers you signed for her. He looked at his daughter, and for the first time, I saw something small in his eyes. Fear. Not of her, of what she represents. A woman who refuses to kneel. My son was ready to explode, muscles tight, voice shaking, when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. Her father recognized the vibration like someone remembering a mistake they thought they buried. She answered, without looking at anyone. Hello. A voice came through, fragile, breathy, alive. Arohi. Her father's eyes widened, the sound of a ghost speaking through a phone. Her friend. Alive. He spoke like every second was borrowed. I heard your father went to you. Her father froze, blood draining from his face. She whispered, He's here. The line crackled, then the truth arrived like lightning. Your father didn't want to kill me, he said. He wanted to erase me. Erase. Not murder. Make him nothing. Remove him from history, not from life. He continued, breathing heavy. I told him I ran. I signed a report saying you were taken, so he could save his honor. And I could disappear. She covered her mouth, sobbing without sound. You didn't abandon me, she whispered. No, he said. I protected you from the price of choosing yourself. Her father tried to grab the phone. My son blocked him. Stay away, my son warned. Her friend kept speaking, now with clarity. The debt isn't yours, Arohi. It's mine. I had to grow up in a world where love is negotiation. You don't owe me a life. You owe yourself joy. Her father shouted. You lied. The voice on phone laughed. Sad, tired, free. I learned from you. Everyone froze. Then he added the sentence that finally killed the old world. I walked away so she could walk forward. A lifetime in one sentence. She cried, not for him alone, for everything they lost inside tradition. He spoke softer now. I'm leaving the country. Don't look for me. I don't want her future distracted by my past. Her fingers tightened around the phone. You gave me freedom, she said. He replied, No. I gave you the moment you needed to find your own. Don't live small. Not after everything we lost. The call ended. No goodbye. Because goodbye is ownership. He chose release. Her father stood silent, stripped of narratives. Not a villain. Not a monster. Just a man raised by men who never questioned their inheritance of power. She stepped toward him. Not angry. Not broken. Whole. I forgive you, she said. He blinked. Confusion, pride, shame all tangled. But I will never be what you wanted. Her husband stepped beside her, shoulder touching. We're building something you never learned, he said. Her father whispered, What is that? She smiled, a daughter becoming a woman in one breath. A life built on choice. He exhaled, long, defeated, human, and left. Not punished, not hated, just left behind. Weeks passed. People talked. Stories spread. Rumors mutated like old snakes in new skins. But she lived. Not hiding. Not apologizing. Living. She opened a small studio, designing handcrafted work with women who were once told they shouldn't dream beyond their doorstep. Her bank account wasn't escape money. It was seed money. Her husband supported her, not as shield, but as partner. Not saving her, walking with her. And I watched them grow. Two hearts raised by sacrifice, now learning how to build joy without guilt. One evening, as the sun folded itself into the rooflines of the neighborhood, she sat beside me. I think I understand what he meant, she said softly. What? I asked. She looked at the street, kids chasing a ball, the sound of chai cups clinking in distance. You owe me a life, she repeated. He wasn't asking for mine. He was asking for a world where girls don't have to be saved the way he saved me. She rested her head on my shoulder, the same shoulder she once cried into, afraid to breathe. And now I'm building it. Not for him. Not for her father. For the next girl who might be born into a world where tradition is a chain. I remember the morning she said it like a confession. We got married yesterday. I thought yesterday stole her from me. I didn't know yesterday saved her. Today, she chooses her life. Tomorrow, she builds futures for others. Yesterday was sacrifice. Today is freedom. And somewhere, far away, A man with a circle for a signature. Knows his promise grew roots.